Who do you trust to fix the climate crisis? Actual scientists or a former solicitor who just seems to like being on the telly? About 30 years ago, in the face of growing concerns over emissions, the world agreed to take the first tentative steps on the road to net zero. In 1997, that manifested itself as the Stage 1 emissions regulations. The regulations for off-road diesel engines were introduced in two stages, Stage 1 rather, in 1999 and Stage 2 between 2001 and 2004. Those regulations were tightened with the introduction of Stage 3A and Stage 3B regs that were phased in between 2006 and 2013, with Stage 4 coming into force in 2014. Stage 5 regulations were proposed in 2014 and became effective in 2019 for engines below 56 kilowatts and from 2020 for engines from 56 to 130 kilowatts. And now, engine and construction equipment makers are signing up to what is known as the science-based targets that are in line with the goals of the Paris Agreement to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees C and ultimately targeting a 1.5 degrees C limit. I'd like you to keep that term, science-based targets, in your mind. It'll be important in just a second. At every stage of this evolution, scientists, academics, environmentalists have studied the issue of emissions and global warming before setting their ambitious targets. Engineers have worked tirelessly to produce engines and equipment that comply with these increasingly stringent and exacting standards. And while I'm sure Greta Thunberg and her well-meaning but ultimately naive cohorts would prefer us all to abandon fossil fuels this afternoon, pretty much the entire world has reached a consensus. I say pretty much because there are a few outliers. Former President Donald Trump withdrew the US from the agreement, or the Paris Agreement, only for his successor Joe Biden to rejoin less than 3 months later. As it stands today, only Iran, Libya, Yemen and Eritrea have failed to ratify this agreement. So this is one of those really rare occasions in which scientists have presented the evidence and set the standards, politicians have agreed almost universally, and engineers have created and continue to create solutions in keeping with those ambitious targets. Some of the smartest and sharpest minds in the entire world united behind a single goal. So how is it that a man with a law degree but no full scientific qualifications can wake up one day and just declare a great swathe of the nation's capital an ultra-low emission zone? Because that is precisely what Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has done. In doing so, he is seeking to extract another £12.50 per day from working families during an ongoing cost of living crisis. He's attempting to clean the air, but basically only in the air where it is financially lucrative to do so. The ultra-low emissions zone discriminates against individuals that can't afford new cars and smaller demolition and construction companies that can't afford new equipment. It is estimated that the planned expansion of London's ULEZ, ultra-low emission zone, will cost around £400 million. The majority of that will be spent on cameras to ensure that motorists pay their daily levy. That £400 million could buy 1,000 new electric buses to make an actual contribution to the environment. Instead, the Mayor and Transport for London are proposing a Big Brother-style surveillance system and a stealth tax on London's road users and businesses. Now, before anyone suggests that this is a London-centric issue, bear this in mind. There are currently 7 UK cities with designated clean air zones. Those are Bath, Birmingham, Bradford, Bristol, Portsmouth, Sheffield and Tyneside, which includes both Newcastle and Gateshead. A future clean air zone for Greater Manchester is currently under review. All of those are currently targeting buses, coaches and taxis, although some extend to include vans, cars and possibly even motorcycles as well. So this is just the thin end of the wedge. We can expect to see more of these in the months and years ahead.